Dictionary.com says a wacko is a strange or odd person. There's probably nothing to fear from most wackos. They often serve as an odd form of entertainment. But what happens if they get into positions of power? What happens if they run a government?
I am not exaggerating when I say that this is a must watch. How crazy is it that Pierre Poilievre's social media team does a better job than the CBC, and the CBC gets taxpayer funded over $1 billion a year to help them create content, and they can't even keep 1,000 views on their stuff. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Lots to get through today. We have some new information regarding some recent polls that, it is a bad day to be a Liberal Party supporter.
All the shit at the fan today. That new jobless numbers came out. The unemployment rate came out today in Canada. We are so
I'll leave it at that. The government, by all accounts, is kind of in total collapse at the moment. And Justin Trudeau did, in fact, secure one year-end interview that is premiering later tonight. But we have a little bit of a snapshot into it that might leave you feeling very, very disturbed.
40 years ago, your father famously took a walk in the snow when the Conservatives were up in the polls and decided it was time to give it up. It's snowing older now.
When my father was my age, he still had a dozen years of prime ministering ahead of him.
Oh my God.
Well, Trudeau can at least proudly say that he made Canadian history this year, though it's not really the kind that you should be celebrating over New Year's Eve. As it stands right now, according to the latest Angus Reid poll, the Conservatives would have 241 seats, the Bloc 58, NDP 38 seats, Liberals 6 seats, down 154. Also, the Green Party is looking like they're going to have 0 seats as well. And a lot of people have been saying this, that under Trudeau's leadership, the Liberal Party could very well have so few seats that they cease to exist. And I know that that sounds kind of crazy to think about, because Liberal, NDP, Conservatives, that's like the top 3 dogs. But that is just how bad he has dragged his party name through the mud. And take a look at the federal vote intention. The Liberals are literally on their way to catastrophic destruction. Self-implosion. That is exactly what they have done to themselves. And it's shocking because you would think that never listening to your people, calling them names and pitting them against each other, creating race wars, using their taxpayer money for things you should not be using it for, and then refusing to reveal that data would make people love you, right? Yeah, no, quite the opposite. Over here in reality land, the Liberals are currently sitting at 16%. With NDP at 21, Conservatives at 45.
One to select a new Liberal leader. The party's Atlantic caucus is now calling on the Prime Minister to step down, and for a national caucus meeting in January to determine if the Liberals can appoint an interim leader.
Now, it's not just resignation, it's about rebellion within the Liberal Party.
In a statement to CTV News, Liberal MP Wayne Long says publicizing the letter is an attempt to pressure colleagues and cabinet ministers to speak up and do what he says is right. It's the latest letter, but far from the only one. Public calls from Liberal MPs have been mounting for weeks.
Just last night, it was published that Quebec caucus also called for Trudeau to resign. And you know what? Here's the part that really grinds my gears. The fact that all of these people, or not all, most of them, a large majority of them, all of the Liberals and the NDPs and even the Bloc, so many of them did things to keep Trudeau in power. They did things in exchange for supporting Justin Trudeau. And the only reason, and this is so important for everybody to note, every single person who is struggling right now, the only reason they are turning their backs against him is not because they care about Canada. It's not because they care about you. It's because they care about themselves. They don't want to lose a job. They're trying to go out by saying, oh yeah, no, I'd never supported him. Yeah, you did, bud. We saw the votes on those bills. We heard your silence. It was very loud when real everyday Canadians were being slandered and thrown out and name-called because we were saying something's really wrong here and we're not okay and we need somebody to do something for us and you're the only people that can actually do something. And every single time they heard those calls, they went, yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. You don't represent the majority of Canadians. And the only reason why now they're saying and doing something is because it has gotten that bad.
33-year-old Ryan Hemsley told the Free Press that in Canada, quote, "You wake up and survive," he said. "There's no opportunity for growth. As much as I love Canada, becoming the 51st state of the United States would rejuvenate me."
And so, yeah, I'm happy that they're doing this, but also I'm not an idiot as to why you're doing it. So if all these people who have been fully in support of this, who have played a role in making the situation as dire as it is, think that they're going to get off scot-free, think that Canadians are going to be grateful that now they're changing their mind, that now they care about us, they got another thing coming, because we do not see that. We see right through all of this, just as we've seen through it for years now.
Trader Joe's, and a girl from Canada literally stops me and she goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're here." I'm like, "So where are you from?" She goes, "Canada," and I can hate it. And she's like, "We're all everybody's trying to come here. The president, Trudeau is horrible. The taxes suck. The borders." I'm like, geez. I have not heard one person go, Man, Canada, zero.
Yeah. And to signal yet again just how little any of these other party leaders and members are actually doing for Canadians, here's Danielle Smith, who was recently on Fox Business, fighting the case for Canada because Justin Trudeau isn't. In fact, his entire caucus has remained completely silent. Yeah, sure, Jolie and LeBlanc went down on Friday to meet with some Trump officials to discuss the border, but there hasn't been any statements, any hope, nothing at all since that. In fact, the only statement we did have is that their conversations left them feeling very uneasy and uncertain about the future. We don't have the NDP speaking up or going on American channels to plead our case. We don't have the Liberals doing that. We don't have the Bloc, the Greens. We don't have anybody doing that. But what we do have is a Conservative, Premier Danielle Smith from Alberta, who is actually fighting our case publicly.
Why do you think the idea of statehood is resonating with Canadians?
I think it's resonating with Americans more than Canadians, frankly. I think there's a number of Canadians who are really concerned that what started off as a joke seems to keep on coming back and back and back. What Canadians really want is a preservation of the incredible trading and defense partnership that we've had with the Americans since our founding. We are the largest trading partner with the United States. We buy more goods from the United States than anyone else. Mexico is second. We buy more goods, in fact, than Germany, Italy, France, the UK, and Vietnam combined. So we have a very strong relationship. What we're worried about here is a 25% tariff that could potentially disrupt that cross-border trade flow. So I think there's some people putting forward ideas about how that might be resolved. I personally think the way it would be to resolve is to have no tariffs, as we've had in the past, and get back to talking about some of the other trade irritants that are causing the new incoming president to have concerns about Canada as a partner.
You know, out of that meeting, one official saying that President-elect is more focused, away from little of the border, but to the trade deficit that the U.S. has Canada. What do you make of all that?
Well, if you look back a few years in sort of around 2015, Canada actually had the trade deficit with the U.S. I think that's a demonstration of how balanced our trade is sometimes we have a deficit and sometimes you do. And often it's really related to commodity prices. As we know, in the last 10 years, commodity prices have gone up, and that pretty well explains most of that difference. But that's also beneficial to Americans. I mean, America is looking for where they're going to get critical minerals. How are they going to make sure that they have enough oil and gas to keep gas prices low? Where are they going to be able to get food product to process and then ship around the world, including back to us.
A friendly reminder to like this video, comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel. Now, the reason why I think this was beautifully summed up by Poilievre and his team and the creative geniuses that they have over there, that Justin Trudeau and the NDP and everybody else isn't responding to these very serious situations is probably because of how weak they are, how big of a failure they are, which is beautifully summarized right here.
A vote for the motion. Mr. Trudeau.
There seems to be an overabundance of wacko events in Canada these days, but who's behind them?
Does capitalist democracy still work? That's the question being posed around kitchen tables.
But what exactly is a wacko? Is there an accepted general definition? According to vocabulary.com, a wacko is a person who is eccentric or mad. Merriam-Webster equates wacko with psycho. Dictionary.com says a wacko is a strange or odd person. There's probably nothing to fear from most wackos. They often serve as an odd form of entertainment. But what happens if they get into positions of power? What happens if they run a government?
Slap.
But is the Liberal government of Canada really comprised of wackos? Let's start with their leader, Justin Trudeau. He invented a new economic doctrine, wackonomics. The first rule of wackonomics: no math allowed.
The economy is not numbers. The economy is people.
Rent is a number. Gas, food, and home prices are numbers. Before wackonomics, humanity was stuck with old-fashioned equation. Numbers equals prices equals what people pay. Pythagoras said, numbers rule the universe, but not to worry. Wackonomics overturns the numbers.
I have an inability to handle small numbers and little calculations.
You'll forgive me if I don't think about monetary policy. We're focused on Canadians. I'll let the bankers worry about the economy.
But if you use your credit card to go back to school, or if you use your credit card, you go into debt to build an expansion on your house, that is how you grow a strong economy.
And if you don't like the high taxes and inflation, you just need to get with the vibes.
A lot of economists have been talking about the vibe session.
And maybe don't forget to say a little prayer.
What do you make of that, Kristen?
Well, I would say amen to raising taxes.
If that doesn't work, here's Freeland's financial advice to pay your bills.
Canadian families are looking really closely at all of their expenses. Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription.
And the budget will balance itself.
Then there is the vocabulary.
Maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to...
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind.
Trudeau even reinvented the future of quantum mechanics with his own cerebral thoughts.
We have to rethink elements as basic as space and time.
In this wacko world, attempting to ban things has become second nature. Here are a few things wackos want to ban: gas-powered cars, plastic straws, and hunting rifles.
There are some guns, yes, that we're going to have to take away from people who were using them to hunt.
The good news is, wackos like Trudeau have no problem legalizing hard drugs. They will even make the taxpayer buy opioids for you.
We've also ensured a better supply of artificial opiates.
But remember, people, if you're going to snort hard drugs, do it in a sustainable way without a plastic straw. So how do these wackos look at the rest of the world? What do they really admire?
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship.
In exchange for his admiration, Beijing's dictatorship gave Trudeau an endearing nickname.
We're quite proud the Prime Minister has been given a fond nickname in China. He is called Trudeau, which I believe means potato, and I can't say the Chinese word, it's Xian Trudeau, little potato, because his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, was senior potato.
Back at home, it takes a team to make a wacko world. Trudeau's closest ally, Chrystia Freeland, knows the struggle of commoners who drive to work every day.
A fact that still shocks my dad is I don't actually own a car. Because I live in downtown Toronto. I'm 300 meters from the nearest subway. I walk, I take the subway.
While driving around in rural Alberta last week, Chrystia Freeland was pulled over for speeding.